Hello friends, I'm Safi and this is The Electronics. Today I'm joined by Mr. Faisal Kawoosa, who is founder and chief analyst of TechARC. He's a leading industry analyst and is a well-recognized influencer in the technology domain. Mr. Faisal, welcome to the Electronics interview.
Hi, welcome, Safi. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Okay, now we start with our first question and you have already covered a spectrum of technologies in your career in varying capacities. Tell us what is happening on the tech front, say in terms of leading, emerging, and dwindling technologies.
Okay, that's an interesting question because that's how the phase of technology goes. Okay, and at TechArc, we have come up with something which I love to talk about is wax and wane analysis. Okay, because not just about technologies, but even in many other products. Okay, you have something which is kind of waxing as a feature, and then you have some of the things which are waning out of the product. Okay. So if we look at the overall technology sector right now, there are a lot, and technology always has buzzwords. Okay. So if you look right now, probably buzzwords are around IoT, AI, ML, deep tech. So all these things are kind of emerging out there. But there is one essential, I would say, uh, underline, okay, which kind of amplifies or makes the significance of these technologies out there. So that underline is that probably we are now trying to have more of value-driven technology. Now, what do I mean by value-driven technology is the world is now moving towards quality and value. So whichever technology is coming out to offer that value as well as say, this quality, help us extract quality out of maybe electronics, technology, digital, those kind of things are now coming to the forefront. So if I try to interpret it in the form of machine learning, so what is machine learning doing? Okay, there is already a lot of technology building blocks which are available. Okay, so machine learning is helping me extract further value out of it. Okay, same is the case with data analytics, same is the case with IoT, same is the case with AI. So all of these things, even blockchain, all of these are essentially the technologies which are emerging, and these are the ones which are finally helping us to extract more and more value out of it.
Great. Convergence as a concept, as we understand and understood a decade ago, refers to integration of independent technologies for forming something new. So, for example, we have smartphones. So it's an integration of phone, camera, music player, a TV, and of course, a sort of computer into itself. For the viewers, if you may share, what's big happening with traditional electronics, or is the likely trajectory or trends for general consumer appliances?
Okay, I think before I answer this, coming to what is probably dwindling, in terms of technologies. India is a very tricky market. Okay. While we are just ushering into 5G, we are not able, for various reasons, there could be business compulsions as well as other issues. We are not able to have a final date of switching of 2G. Okay. So, while globally we see a different dynamics, that there is a definite trend where we see one or the other technology dwindling and, finally switching on. Here it's very, very difficult. Other than, yes, I would say some of the products which have been eaten up by mobiles. Okay. Uh, Say, for instance, fax machines and all those things which have completely gone off the market now. It's very difficult to find a real end date for any technology in India, unless the government calls that okay, you have to now shut it down. Now coming to your question around what's probably happening with electronics. Convergence is there, so what's probably, so convergence, if we look at it, happens at three layers. Okay, there is a convergence of device, there is a convergence of what we call bundling of service. So the service provider bundles them together, and that's a more of a convergence of convenience. where you get one bill, you can leverage from each other. And the third one is what I call convergence of use case. Okay. So what happens is the ecosystem out there in the digital domain, they look at a user and then derive what all use cases are there for an individual. So I think we are heading to that. That's the I'd say the latest trend, where an individual, or we had something like customer centricity in mind. Now that customer centricity is driving convergence right now. So everybody in the technology domain is looking at an individual, and then trying to figure out, okay, what all can I converge for that individual to become that kind of a super provider of everything. That's what I see is happening on the convergence. On the electronic side, I think there are two things, of course, happening. One is we are trying to make electronics more and more intelligent. Okay, so there is power of compute getting into electronics, even in our home appliances. And of course, that compute has to be, complemented with connectivity. So these two things I see is something which is happening on the electronic sector.
Okay, another question. It may sound a little philosophical, but I think it is in an important question. In the tech framework, we have already been talking of the so-called digital divide. You know,
Hmm.
the pace with which the change is creeping in. Do you see it as grave a concern as economic well-being?
So I see it as a very big concern. Okay, and I recently wrote in one of the articles as well on this issue, where I said that we recently celebrated, for instance, 25 years of mobility in India, mobile services. And what has happened over the years is probably we may not see much of a digital divide, okay, in the essence that we used to talk about. Okay, we can say, okay, connectivity, we are now probably 99.99% connected. Everybody has access to digital technologies. All that is sorted. Is it sorted? Yes or no? Okay. So again, going back to this quality, philosophy of quality driven and value driven technology concepts, I think that's creating a new, challenge, which I call digital inequality. Okay, so there is no digital equitability. Now, what does that mean? So maybe you and I are blessed to be living in areas in where we have too many options to choose from. Okay, but someone, and that gives me, that positions me in that ideal position of consumer is the king. So I have the choice. I can make a call what to choose. Okay, which operator to go with, which technology to go with. But for majority of people still in the country, they can't make this call. Okay, they have to still go by probably what is available in their region, in their locality. Now this is probably, this is not a digital divide issue, but this is what is resulting in, what I love to call as digital, this equitability. How do we, try to bring this at equilibrium? That is, I think, the challenge now onwards. So for 25 years, we have been working on getting access, so that everybody gets access to technology. But now we have to really think on how are we making it equal, so that we don't have a new flavor of digital divide.
Okay. So far, data privacy concerns involve mostly our profiles and our actions online. But now, as we see IoT, it's the next big thing which is being talked about. So it's likely to seep into our private spaces. A new
Mhm.
dimension gets added to already existing debate. What are, let me just put it the other way around, because there's of course going to be a talk about data privacy, but I'm also trying to find some positivity in it, you know. So, what are opportunities involved in these new data streams for businesses? Once these IoTs come into being, there'll be a lot of data flowing in. Also, can consumers gain from this shift?
So yes, I think there's a lot that consumers can gain. First answering the second part of the question. So yes, consumers can gain a lot. Now, how? I think it helps them understand what is relevant for them, what is probably irrelevant to them. And with the kind of information overload which is right now, okay. So right now the question is not about uh, how do you get information, or how do you get access to technology. As I said, that's sorted, but it's about how do you filter now between good and bad. Okay, that's where a lot of this IoT things, data analytics will help consumers, will empower consumers to take decisions. Okay, that is one part. Now, coming on to the second part on the privacy thing, and what kind of opportunities probably are there. So on the privacy thing, I think the biggest issue right now is how do you bring in this element of trust into the entire ecosystem? Okay, as you rightly said, uh, we kind of have started to frame structure our sentences in very, very legal terms now. We use a lot of may not, okay, should, could, kind of those things in our sentences, because we are not somewhere very, very confident that whatever this application, whatever this appliance is telling me that it does, is it doing only duo, or it is stepping, overstepping that promise, that commitment, what it is making to do. That's a very big challenge right now. Okay, so I don't have an answer, but this is a very big opportunity out there. So how do I address that? That is something, which probably the next unicorns of the world will try to solve. Uh, but yes, that is an issue which I definitely see out there. One, uh, how do I create a system where I can just, neutrally validate that, okay, if this where IP camera, surveillance camera is saying that I will only do surveillance of your compound, and this is how I will capture data, this is how I'll store it, this is what I'll share with someone, this is what I will never share. Okay, this is what I record, this is what I will never record. Now, who will validate that? How do we create that framework? Okay. And it should be very, 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 very kind of easy for a consumer. It's just like I just, literally tap it somewhere and I get, okay, this is its MRI. Okay. This is what this device will do. Uh, that is something is missing right now in the space, and we need to solve this. As we definitely go more and more with IoT devices, we have to solve this issue out.
The government has already been keenly working on policies to energize the electronics sector and to nurture the
Mhm.
digital ecosystem. In terms of formulating policy for newer tech based electronics and also for making India self reliant in the electronics sector, what initiatives, additionally, I'm talking about, like there are already several in place, additionally, you
Mhm.
think should be considered by the government?
So see, there are a couple of things which are still kind of to be worked upon if we want to really improve in this sector, and maybe not just be at par with what's happening globally, but even move beyond that. So first thing which I feel is we have to work upon the fab. That's a weakness. We should have fab in place. Okay. Because unless we have fab, we will not be really, really able to significantly contribute. Okay. A chip today, and other such semiconductors which go into any electronics, contribute a lot, substantial in terms of, I would say, the EBOM, okay, electronic bill of material. So that's something which we need to definitely adopt if we want to not just make in India, but make in India with value addition. Okay, there has to be substantial domestic value addition that will not come unless we have a fab here. That is one thing I think definitely we need to work on. The second thing is how are we helping our electronics companies to evolve as maybe as a complete ecosystem, then rather than just manufacturing and limiting their scope. We have seen globally the best example before us is Apple. Okay, Apple does produce hardware, but it does not stop there. Okay, it builds an entire ecosystem around it, and that's how we are every time seeing the fabulous results of Apple. We saw just a couple of days back how Apple performed. So we have to really help. the ecosystem out here, how do they look at things holistically? Okay. And how do we enable that? I think that somewhere policy has to answer that. The third thing which I feel out there is that, uh, you know, we always are kind of followers globally, if I look at, everything. So what happens is when we announce any technology, okay, we don't honestly differentiate between uh, the generation of technology anybody wants to work upon. Okay. Like if I take again example of telecom, now today if anybody produces a 2G hardware in India, effectively gets the same kind of benefits if anybody wants to jump in 5G or probably do R&D in 6G. Okay. Now, with that kind of approach and outlook, we may always be kind of following the clock. Okay. Now, how do we really take that leapfrog jump? I think that will only happen if we are encouraging the latest technology to come first. You know, when we are saying that we want India to be a leader in electronics, to be among, I would not say leader, but at least to be among notables, globally, we have to have that approach also that we are doing something very, very latest. Okay. So I would personally feel that we should give maybe double the benefits to someone who is working on 5G in India rather than what others are getting who are working on 2G and maybe other technologies we are doing, which are kind of sunsetting. Okay. So that's an approach which is still missing out there in our policy overall, not just in electronics, I think in other domains also. It's still missing out there. So that's these are, I think, three key things which I feel. And lastly, yes, on the education side. Okay. While there are skilling initiatives out there, but look at the employability of our, for instance, engineering graduates. Okay. Many of the engineering graduates, even who want to pursue their career in research, analytics, and we get a chance to interact with them, they have not honestly seen electronics in their labs. Okay. And many of them are BTech students. Okay. So how do we fill that gap out? We need to really, really look at it. So again, I think coming to the point that this decade has to be more of value and quality than of quantity and volumes.
Okay, my last question, but it has got several parts and perhaps it has also
Sure,
got some ingredients which are very close to your heart given the kind of work you have already done. Uh,
sure.
I'll just mention the points and you can just add on to it. First is IPTV, and we all want
Hmm.
to know what exactly is happening on this front. Semiconductor industry, and the third is next generation telephony. So these three, and also if you may want to have a take on electronics of the future, that we can talk just after this, so that we can
Sure,
mix it
sure.
up. IPTV, semiconductor industry, and next generation telephony.
Okay. So I'm happy that IPTV is now a reality. Okay. Uh, with the kind of fiberization and everything moving over IP. Okay. We are now really seeing IPTV happening. Okay. Now the users of IPTV are increasing in India. But there is a shift what has happened. What we used to call IPTV maybe a decade ago, it's not the same IPTV now. Okay. Fundamentally, yes, if you look at the essentials which qualify it as an IPTV, we are now having IPTV. Like if we look at Geo Fiber or Airtel Fiber, or even like in that context, if you look at OTT, okay, that is all ultimately TV over IP, Internet Protocol technologies. But yes, there used to be a distinction between what is managed, what is unmanaged. So in that context, you may not call it pure IPTV, but I think we have arrived at that stage where internet, TV is definitely one of the major use cases of internet technologies right now. But yes, the definition and contours have changed. That is one. On the semiconductor side, I think. Uh, Two things are definitely happening out there. One, every day we are seeing this ways of, making rather nanonizing this technology. Okay, we have reached like 5 nanometers, and those kind of technologies are there. So that's one thing I definitely see there. But the second thing is the contribution of software driven semiconductors is increasing. So that's a good opportunity, in fact, for India also, because our expertise level in uh, the software aspects of semiconductor is still at a good level, because India already caters to many design centers, and some of the leading names in the semiconductor world have their captive as well as third party design centers here. But yes, they may not be doing very core work, but there is still some bit of like design verification and other things which happen out of India. So I see that as a good trend out there, and very, I would say, something encouraging for the Indian semiconductor ecosystem out there. That's second. Third was, I guess, next gen telephony. Okay, again, I think that has again happened. It's happening. We are all experiencing it, be it making calls on WhatsApp, making calls on other, what we call these, IP, call agents. So that's already starting to happen. Again, our calls, now we get this triple play and quad play services in our homes, essentially again through fiber. We are now getting, voice, video, uh, and other kind of formats there out there. So again, I would say next generation telephony has again started, but uh, it's kind of a similar to IPTV, the way it was defined in maybe 10 years ago. It's not happening that way, but yes, the next generation telephony is already there, and it's transforming many things. Look at for instance, I wrote on this aspect also. Look at an office maybe just 3 years back. Okay, now a PBX and a desk was something which was very essential for every office out there. Okay, but now with say applications like Microsoft Teams, it's completely vanished. Okay, you don't need it now, but you still have everybody accessible, approachable, and I would say it's now multimedia rich. In terms of you can share screen, you can share content, you can chat, you can do video call. So those kind of next generation telephony elements have already got into the system, and I think COVID has expedited that.
Okay, to sum this up, or the last question, but it's so near to my heart as well, and maybe a lot of people also want to have your take on this, is electronics of the future, quote unquote.
So I think electronics of future would be more about efficiency, more efficient, okay, less on consuming power, uh, further nanonized, okay. Uh, even like we will see new form factors in terms of maybe bendable electronics. All those things are already out there and happening. Uh, Electronics as such becomes a meta resource, okay. uh, you know, I think maybe 5 years down the line, many of the things which we know today as mechanical devices will no longer be mechanical devices. Okay. Like, who would have imagined that a car would be someday an electronics item? Okay. So my car is now electronics. My mobile has already become electronics. Many things in my home are becoming electronics. So it's becoming that meta resource, okay, that underlying resource in every product, be it in homes, be in offices, or in the public spaces. So that's I think the future of electronics. And lastly, yes, the contribution of software in terms of adding value to that electronics, adding capabilities, adding computation. That's definitely going to increase and evolve.
Mr. Faisal, thank you so much for talking to the electronics.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me today.